Welcome to Broken Antler Outdoors. This is Tim back with another video, and I'm actually very excited to show you an item that I've cherished over the last few years, and it's one of my most favorite fixed blades of all time. And the knife that I'm talking about is the Silver Stag Pacific Bowie. Now, Silver Stag is a company. They make their knives in the USA. It's all made in the USA, so I believe that stands for quality. Obviously not all the time, but in this case it does. They make traditional hunting blades either in their Crown series, what they call it, which is D2 tool steel, which the Pacific Bowie is part of, and then they make the tool steel series, which is 1095 high carbon steel. Silver Stag, the name kind of suggests that it has to do something with traditional materials and antler materials, and that's actually what they do. Every knife they create has a antler handle. It's either stag or elk. Now this is a stag handle on the Pacific Bowie, like you can see. This is a clip point Bowie blade, and it's quite a large fixed blade. It comes in this leather sheath. The embellishments you see on this are actually not included in the standard version. They've been put on by my girlfriend, and I'll show some close-ups of this in a second. But it's this traditional style thick leather sheath. Comes with stitching, and it's also glued together. And it's a great sheath. Has a belt loop on it. You know, it's all one part of leather, so that's always good to have. And the knife fits in there nicely. Has a little bit of play. I mean, you wouldn't lose the knife per se, but there's some play in the sheath. But with such a large knife, I don't really mind. And this is just a great blade. You know, every time I use it, every time I look at it, it's just a great pleasure to actually have this and to have found this company, because they are not as famous and well known as other companies. This blade comes razor sharp out of the box. It needs some sharpening now. It's a hollow ground blade, D2 tool steel, very hard steel, needs quite a bit of work to resharpen, and obviously is more brittle than other steels, but I didn't have any problems with chipping or rolling of the blade, so it's a very, very good heat treat. Now, one thing that I did have, I broke the tip off, and I broke the tip off when I was in Australia, and I was down the river, and I was cutting a fish, actually preparing a fish, and I rammed the tip into the wood, into a stump, kind of like this. And I moved the blade, and all of a sudden I hear this snap, and it actually broke the very, very tip off this blade. And it was a very delicate tip, so that was one of the weak points that I thought this knife would have. But what I did, I just hand sharpened this and dropped the blade down a bit more and gave it a new tip, and I love it even more. You know, it's just part of life, having to deal with gear breakage in some way or another. Now, like I said, it's D2 tool steel. It's about 60 Rotwell, so kind of hard. Has a brass hand guard and a stag antler. Now, one of the other weak points that this knife would have or might have is that it's not full tang. And obviously with this construction you cannot have a full tang blade, so it has a rat tail. And I'm not quite sure how far this rat tail goes into the handle, but I would imagine it's about 3/4. Could be less, could be more. I would have to talk to Silver Stag about this, but you know, that's what I would imagine a rat tail does in this blade. It is very well constructed. I've batoned with this blade, I have killed pigs with it, I've skinned pigs with it, and the handle has never come loose. It's a fluent transition between the handle and the guard, and it's just solid. Now, the price point is what's actually very, very fascinating, because you would think that this blade is actually very expensive. It is not. I've bought this blade I bought it in the UK. I bought it for £125, and I think they sell it on their website for about $160. Now that's crazy, because you get so much quality in such a good tool steel, and it's a lot of steel. It's a big blade. You get a very, very good constructed sheath with it, and I'm just surprised of how cheap this actually is. So it's a very, very good thing, but they didn't sacrifice quality. Now, like I said before, I'll just show you a close-up of the embellishments that my girlfriend put on the sheath, and I think she's done an excellent job with this. It just looks awesome, and she's very talented. She's an artist. So you have this tribal pattern of a wolf's head, and then on the bottom it's this feather design, kind of Native American feather design on the sheath. And then I have my initials on the sheath here. Now this is all scratched up because it has been used so much. The way this embellishment has been done, it has been drawn on with a pen, and then she's used a soldering iron with a little chisel tip, and she's actually burnt all of this into the leather, and it's just awesome. I mean, it's the first knife actually that I had customizations put on, because I think it's worthy. Now you can see that there's some stitching missing. See if the camera focuses. It always takes a few seconds. But there's some stitching missing, and that is also one of the weak points of this knife. The blade was so sharp, and there was pressure applied onto the handle, and the blade actually pushed through the bottom of the sheath, and it separated the leather. Now I've glued this back together. I've not replaced the stitching yet, but what I've done, I've gotten a piece of old leather, and I kind of cut it the way I wanted it to be, and I folded it in half and pushed it down the sheath to have kind of a second barrier for the blade tip to go into and not penetrate the sheath. It has worked out for me well. It hasn't pushed through again, but I've had quite a lot of issue with this at first, and I didn't know what to do. But that's what I did. So yeah, this is I would say my favorite fixed blade at the moment. It has been carried a lot of the time. It has been with me on every trip since I had it. It has been on several continents. It has been in a lot of different countries, and it has done pretty much everything you could imagine. It's scratched up, you know. The handle has smoothed down and kind of discolored over time because it has been used so much. It has been bloodied. It has been in mud. It has been everywhere, but it still holds up. And I want to just thank Stag for this. You know, they make a great knife. I'll be sure to pick up more of these blades in the future, but I would suggest to check them out. I will put the official website of the company into the description, and you can have a look for yourself. And you know, they're great. They also have a Facebook page, so if you want to look for them on Facebook, do that. And make sure, if you have the time, to check them out. You know, see if your local dealer has them. And it's just you know, I praise this company very high, and it's an awesome blade. I love it. So you know, I'll keep carrying this, and it's always going to be there. And I hope you like it as much as I do once you get one. But this is the Stag Pacific Bowie. I'll be back soon with another video. Until then, stay safe.